Okay, let's dive right in. Today we're unpacking some really fascinating source material.
Yeah, it's kind of like a guide to exploring your inner world, isn't it?
Exactly. Our mission here is to explore what these sources say about finding your deepest self,
Mm.
about, genuine presence and connection,
And a core idea that keeps popping up is this notion of having deep roots within.
or that other phrase they use to inhabit the body. Sounds simple, but
But the material suggests it's way more profound than just, living in a physical form. It points to something else entirely.
absolutely. The thing that really jumped out at me was this perspective that the body isn't just this temporary thing you have.
Right, not just a shell.
It's presented more like a gateway, maybe the main gateway.
To something much more real, something indestructible within you. That's the core claim, really.
So we'll need to unpack some key concepts from the text, like being,
And the illusion of the self.
and how these seemingly simple practices, things you can actually do, can lead to a real transformation.
Okay, so let's start with being. The material throws down a challenge straight away, doesn't it?
It does. Saying, trying to understand being with your mind is like,
Oh.
well, like a fish trying to figure out water.
Yeah, that analogy really works. And the reason it's hard, the text explains, is that being isn't some object your mind can grab hold of and analyze.
It says subject and object merge.
Exactly. The I that's trying to know and the being is trying to know they become one. There's no separation there.
So if the mind can't really grasp it, how do you know being, according to this material?
It's described more as a feeling, a direct awareness.
Mhm.
That ever-present I am, that is beyond name and form. You feel it.
That deep sense of just existing.
Yes. And abiding in that state, that knowing, is what the source equates with enlightenment. It links it to that quote from Jesus about the truth setting you free.
Okay, free from what exactly? What does having these deep roots free you from?
Primarily, it says you're freed from the illusion that you're just your physical body and your thinking mind.
The illusion of the self.
Right, which the text notes is similar to what the Buddha talked about. This mistake in identity is seen as the root problem.
And that leads to fear.
Inevitably, yeah.
Yeah.
Because if your whole sense of self is tied up in something temporary and vulnerable, well, fear becomes this constant background hum.
The sources also mention freedom from sin.
Yeah,
But they clarify it, don't they?
they do. It's not about divine judgment in the traditional sense. It's described more as the suffering you unconsciously inflict on yourself and others because of that mistaken identity.
That word sin can be loaded, though.
For sure. And the material actually addresses that directly. It says, look past the word. Use the honey analogy. Don't try to eat the signpost pointing to honey. Taste the actual honey.
So don't get stuck on the word itself, whether you like it or hate it.
Exactly. Because getting hung up on the signpost, the word, can stop you from experiencing the reality it's pointing towards.
Right. You miss the underlying message about the human condition.
Precisely. The text even suggests alternatives if sin is a barrier. Try unconsciousness or even insanity.
Insanity. That's strong.
It is, but it perhaps points more directly to that state of being totally identified with the limited mind, stripping away some of the moral baggage.
And the sources connect this collective unconsciousness or insanity
Yeah.
to wider issues.
Oh, absolutely. It links it directly to the suffering driven by what it calls the egoic mind, that sense of a separate self identified with form and story. It even points to the unbelievable violence of the 20th century as a symptom.
Wow.
But importantly, the call isn't to judge humanity or yourself for this. It's to observe it.
Start with your own mind.
Yes, observe your own thought patterns without condemnation. That's presented as the way to find the root of this conditioning within yourself, and that's the first step to moving beyond it.
Okay. So being is this formless, felt reality,
Mm-hmm.
but then the material shifts focus to the body. That feels a bit like a contradiction at first.
I see why you'd say that.
Yeah.
If identifying with the physical body is part of the illusion,
How can the body be the path out of the illusion towards being?
that's a key distinction the source makes. It clarifies that the body you see and touch, the tangible one, that's not the goal. That's just the outer shell.
A limited and distorted perception, it calls it.
Right. The real focus is on what it terms the invisible inner body.
Invisible. So not something you see.
No, something you feel. It's described as the animating presence within you, the life energy.
So inhabiting the body really means feeling it from the inside, feeling that life force.
Exactly. And realizing that you, your core awareness, are actually beyond that outer form. You're the space in which the form happens, in a way.
And this inward journey into feeling that inner body is the way to stillness, peace.
Stillness, peace, a sense of grounded power, vibrant life. That's what the Source claims you find there.
And conversely, being cut off from that inner dimension.
It means your attention gets totally swallowed by the mind. Consciousness becomes just mind stuff, as the text puts it.
Leading to compulsive thinking.
Right, relentless mental noise. And your identity gets fragilely rooted in thoughts and external things, which naturally breeds fear. You lose touch with that invisible and indestructible reality inside.
So the main task here is reclaiming consciousness from that loop of thinking.
Yes, and the primary method offered is beautifully simple, actually.
Which is
Deliberately shift your attention away from the thoughts and into the body.
not thinking about the body, though.
No, crucial difference. Feeling the invisible energy field that gives life to the physical body.
Okay, let's walk through the practice described. It says you can close your eyes initially.
Yeah, that often helps at first. Later, you can do it eyes open. Just gently direct your attention inward.
And then,
Start feeling, can you sense a subtle aliveness anywhere? Maybe in your hands first, or your feet?
feel the energy in the arms, legs, abdomen, chest.
Uh-huh. Then try to feel it pervading the whole body simultaneously, not just parts, but as one single field of aliveness.
And the key is just feeling, right? Not analyzing or thinking about it.
Absolutely critical. Just feel. The Source says the more attention you give it, the clearer it gets, like turning up a dimmer.
It might feel like tingling or buzzing or warmth.
Could be any of those. The body feels more alive, maybe even luminous, though the text cautions against getting caught up in images. Stay with the feeling.
Because the feeling itself is described as formless,
Yeah.
limitless.
Exactly. You can always go deeper into it. And even if it's just a very faint tingling at first, that's fine. That's the starting point. Just rest your attention there.
And then comes a really important instruction.
Yes, keeping some attention there.
Even when you're engaged with the outside world, looking around, talking.
Right. Keep a little bit of your focus anchored in that inner energy field. The Source calls the inner body the threshold between your form identity and your true nature, your essence.
Never lose touch with it. That's the advice.
Powerful advice. It anchors you.
Now, this emphasis on the body is interesting because, as the Source points out, many spiritual paths have historically seemed to, well, deny the body.
Right. Condemned it even. Asceticism, seeing the body as sinful or an obstacle.
Why was that, according to this material?
It suggests it stemmed partly from a fear and maybe shame around our animal nature, particularly after what mythology calls the fall. A sort of dissociation happened.
So people started seeing themselves as having a body, rather than fundamentally being this life energy expressing itself through form.
Exactly. Which led to practices like extreme fasting, denying sexuality, trying to escape the body through trance or out-of-body experiences. Even the Buddha tried extreme asceticism initially, remember?
But this source makes a really bold claim.
It does. Transformation is through the body, not away from it. Unequivocally.
It says no one actually gets enlightened by fighting their body or trying to leave it.
Right. It argues that while followers might have twisted the teachings later, the original masters didn't advocate escaping the body.
It even points to possible hints in existing scriptures, like Jesus saying your whole body will be filled with light.
Or the symbolism of his ascension with his body, suggesting maybe a transformation of the physical, not just leaving it behind.
But you don't need to become a scripture detective, the source says.
No, because the ultimate truth, the source, is accessible now within you through that inner body awareness. This text is just another signpost.
So the Sermon on the Body, as the source summarizes it,
Boils down to this.
Yeah.
Yes, the dense physical body you perceive isn't ultimately real in the way you think. It's a limited perception, but...
don't turn away from it.
Exactly, because hidden within that very perception, within that apparent impermanence, is your essential immortal reality.
The invisible inner body is the doorway into being.
The linked to the unmanifested one life. Through it, you realize your fundamental oneness with, well, with Source, with God, whatever word you use.
So the practical takeaway is about cultivating this connection permanently.
Yes, permanent connectedness with the inner body. Feeling it, even subtly, all the time. That's presented as the key.
And the benefits are significant.
The source claims they're rapid and transformative. It deepens life, raises your vibrational frequency.
Meaning negativity has less of a hold.
Apparently. Things like fear, anger, depression, They exist on a lower frequency, a different order of reality, the text says. They tend to just pass through you without sticking when you're rooted within.
It also anchors you in the now, right?
Yeah.
Stops you getting lost in thoughts or external drama.
Completely. Thoughts and emotions might still arise, but they don't sweep you away. You're grounded.
The advice is practical. Keep some attention inside. Feel the whole body as energy.
Even while you're reading this or listening or working, don't let all your attention flow outward.
Stay rooted within and notice the shift in your state.
And use those waiting times, traffic jams, cues, instead of fuming mentally.
Go inside.
Mm-hmm.
Feel the inner body. Use it to deepen your presence.
Exactly. It becomes less a practice you do and more a new way of living, a state of permanent connection.
Adding depth, richness.
And making it easier to be the observer of your own mind. Things just don't shake you as much.
But there's a warning attached.
There is, if you lose that presence, that rootedness.
You default back to the conditioned mind, especially under pressure.
Yes. Reactions become automatic, predictable, usually fear-based. You're run by the old script.
So when challenges hit, the advice is
Immediately go within. Focus on the inner energy field, even for just a few seconds.
that withdraws consciousness from the mental panic.
Creates stillness, presence, then any response comes from that deeper place.
Which has infinitely more intelligence, the source claims.
When the reactive mind alone, yes. It uses that great analogy from Jesus' parables.
The house built on rock versus sand.
Exactly. Being connected to the inner body is like building on rock, having deep roots. You can withstand the storms. Being identified only with the mind is like building on sand easily washed away.
Now, what if someone tries this, focusing inward, and feels uncomfortable?
Ah, yes. The source addresses this directly. Maybe you feel agitation or restless, even nauseous sometimes.
That happened to someone described in the text.
Right, and the explanation given isn't that you're doing it wrong, it's that you're becoming aware of some lingering emotion.
Unresolved energy you weren't conscious of before.
Precisely, and that's what's blocking access to the deeper piece of the inner body.
So what do you do with that feeling?
Don't fight it. Don't analyze it. Just give it your full attention. Feel it completely.
Acknowledge it. Accept it's there.
Yes, attention, acceptance, transformation. That's the formula offered. Your awareness itself acts like light dissolving the blockage.
It explains emotions are usually short-lived, like ripples.
In a healthy present system, but if you're not in your body, they can linger, merge, form this pain body it talks about.
What causes ongoing suffering and even illness.
That's the idea, and it's important to check if your mind is feeding that emotion.
With the grievance pattern. Blame, self-pity, resentment.
Exactly, which leads straight into the topic of non-forgiveness.
Defined here as holding on to any grievance, past, present, future worries.
Towards others, yourself, situations. Holding on strengthens that false sense of self and blocks acceptance of what is.
And forgiveness then is.
Simply relinquishing the grievance, letting go, offering no resistance to life as it unfolds now.
The alternative being pain, suffering, blocked energy.
Disease, even. Forgiveness, in this view, is about reclaiming your power from the mind.
Because the mind itself can't forgive.
No, the source is clear. The egoic mind thrives on conflict, on being right, on grievance.
So who does the forgiving?
Only you can, meaning you as consciousness, by becoming present, by entering your body, feeling the piece of being that's deeper than the emotion.
Which connects back to that quote, before you enter the temple, forgive.
Exactly. Before you access that sacred inner space, the inner body, the doorway to being, you need to clear those obstacles of unforgiven emotion. Let them go.
Okay, let's just clarify the relationships here again. Presence is consciousness reclaimed.
From being lost in thought and form. And the inner body is the link to the unmanifested, the source.
And at its deepest level, the inner body is the unmanifested.
Yes. So becoming aware of the inner body is like consciousness remembering where it came from, returning to source.
Unmanifested, being the same reality, different signposts.
Right. And it's you as consciousness who does the reclaiming, awakening from the dream of form.
You don't lose the form, but you realize the formless within it.
Exactly. The material acknowledges this might sound mind-bending, conceptually.
But it can be felt.
That's the emphasis. Feeling gets you closer than thinking. You recognize the truth when you're ready, and body awareness deepens that readiness.
Now, shifting to some really practical, maybe even surprising benefits mentioned, like slowing down aging.
Yeah, that's a big one mention. The idea is by identifying less with the time-bound physical body and more with the timeless inner body.
You stop accumulating psychological time, stress, baggage, past future focus.
In your psyche and even in your cells, apparently. So the physical body ages more slowly, and that timeless quality shines through. The text basically says, try it, see for yourself. You will be the evidence.
That's quite a claim. And the immune system.
Strengthening the immune system is another major benefit discussed. Bringing consciousness into the body awakens the cell's intelligence, enhances self-healing.
Like the master returning to the house.
Good analogy, yeah. Illness finds it harder to take root when you're present in the body.
And it also strengthens your psychic immune system.
That's the term you could use. By raising your overall energy frequency through presence, lower frequency negativity, fear, anger, etc., just doesn't resonate.
It exists on a different order of reality.
So it passes through without finding anything to latch onto, without meeting resistance. Again, the invitation is clear. Put to the test.
The source describes a self-healing meditation too.
Yes, flooding the body with consciousness. Focusing on parts, then feeling a wave, then the whole field.
Especially before sleep and on waking.
Right, just being intensely present with the feeling. Gently returning attention when the mind drifts.
Okay, final stretch integrating this. What if your mind is really busy, anxious, hard to feel the inner body?
Good question. The source suggests starting with the breath in that case.
Conscious breathing.
Yeah. Just follow the breath sensation. Feel the abdomen rise and fall. Maybe visualize light filling the body. Then, once you're more anchored.
Gently shift focus to the feeling of the inner energy field itself.
Exactly. Use the breath as an initial anchor.
What about using the mind creatively? Is it always about stopping thought?
Not necessarily stopping it forever, but accessing a space beyond thought. The source argues true creativity arises from consciousness without thought.
And the body is the easiest way into that stillness.
That's the suggestion. The practice offered is, before you need an idea or solution, stop thinking for a moment.
Focus on the inner energy field. Feel the stillness.
Right. Then resume thinking. The claim is your thoughts will be fresher, more intelligent, coming from that deeper space.
Make a habit of switching between thinking and that inner listening.
Yes. Don't just think with your head, think with your whole body.
That's a great line. And it applies to listening, too.
Oh, definitely. The art of listening. Try listening to someone while keeping some awareness in your inner body.
How does that change things?
It takes attention away from your own mental commentary, your judgments, your planning of what to say next. It creates a still space.
So you can hear them without your filters?
Exactly. You give the other person space to be. Really hear them.
The source contrasts this with most interactions being just minds talking at each other.
Right. Layers of thought. But listening with the body, it suggests, lets you feel the being of the other person beneath the words and personality.
A sense of shared essence, oneness, love.
That's the potential. You feel their being through your own connection to being, through your inner body awareness. It allows for true communion, not just communication.
That clear space within you allows genuine connection to happen.
Moving beyond the ego's games and conflicts.
So, quite a journey we've covered. From the abstract idea of being,
to finding this incredibly practical pathway right inside your own body.
understanding the benefits physical, energetic,
and seeing how it can completely shift daily life, even relationships.
and the core message seems crystal clear.
Transformation isn't about rejecting or leaving the body. It's about going deeply into it.
Because that's where the doorway is hidden. The doorway to your true, unchanging reality.
Exactly.
So, maybe a final thought for everyone listening.
Yeah.
What would it actually feel like? What would it mean to live consistently, moment by moment, not just in your body, but as that luminous, indestructible aliveness you can feel within it?
To be permanently rooted in that timeless now.
What kind of freedom, what resilience, what unknown capacities might emerge from that state, recognizing the inner body not just as a feeling, but as that living connection to the divine within you?